Hey, self-care is everywhere. I mean, you turn on the TV, you see commercials promoting it, you go on social media, you see beautiful women being pampered, you turn to your friends and they start complaining about, man, I need to practice more self-care. You understand how self-care can help you because it sounds amazing, right? I mean, who wouldn't want time to pamper themselves and do things that they love each and every day? But let's be honest, you have a crazy busy life. You have work, school, you have to take care of the kids, you have to hang out with your family, your friends, and plus your daily duties that include cooking, cleaning, which means you're pretty much maxed out. And you don't need another single thing to add to your to-do list. But what if you could practice self care and take care of all of your needs without adding to your to do list, but by taking some things away? What if you learned how to take care of you, your needs, and your wants every day by learning something simple like self care basics? In fact, learning the self care basics will make self care more practical, take less time, be less expensive, and overall just simple. Are you ready? Because I surely am. So let's get started. And if you like these videos, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that way you're notified of any new videos that I post. Let's go. What do you love to be happier and feel more fulfilled? And I'm not exactly sure what that experts mean by that, but it sounds amazing. What you need to know is self-care basics so that you don't overwhelm yourself and feel like you're adding another thing to your to-do list because we don't want that. You feel me? Glad you do because, honey, I know if self-care is something that feels like a task on your already busy plate, then you will not be participating. I know this sounds crazy. When you see self-care all over social media, you see that includes lavish baths, facials, shopping sprees, vacations, but that's not what self-care is all about. And the best way to get started is to find out what the self-care basics really are. The definition of basic self-care is anything you do to deliberately take care of you mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally. Self-care is something that helps you to move forward in life. It does not distract you. Self-care helps you to improve your mood, reduce anxiety, have a better relationship with yourself, and so much more. Which makes total sense since there are 9 different categories of self-care. Most people, when they practice self-care, they only look at 4 categories instead of all 9, which can make practicing self-care harder. From experience, I learned the further you break something down and take it one step at a time, the easier it is to get to the big goal, which the big goal here is to be able to practice self-care without feeling like it's another task. The 4 categories that most people focus on are emotional, physical, psychological, and spiritual. But because you're learning self-care basics so that you can practice self-care in a way that doesn't stress you the freak out, I'll break self-care down even further into 9 categories. They are emotional, physical, psychological, spiritual, financial, personal, professional, social, environmental. And as you can see, these 9 categories pretty much cover every aspect of your life. So that way you are able to take care of all your needs when you practice the self-care basics the right way. There are self-care activities that you could practice. And before you jump out of your skin and think, how am I supposed to practice 9 things a day? Calm down, sis. I got your back. Practicing self-care isn't about doing 9 things every day. It's more about following the SIT method or the SIT method. And to sum it up, because I have a whole course that teaches this method here, the SIT method, it's all about 1, step back. 2, identify your triggers. 3, type of self-care. Yes, I know that doesn't make much sense, so I'll break it down even further with an example. Okay, so story time. Ooh, pillow fill. One day I came home from work and I was exhausted. I mean, I walked into the door to see clothes and toys everywhere. You know, I wanted to snap, but I didn't. Plus, girl, no meat had been taken out of the freezer, so you know I was heated. Especially when I saw my husband and kids sitting on the couch watching TV like nothing was wrong. Ooh, set me off. Here I was coming home to a pigsty and feeling like I was Molly the maid because I was expected to cook, clean up, help with homework, and listen to their problems. I didn't even say hi or anything. I slammed the door and I immediately got to work. All I could think about was how tired I was from work. I couldn't wait for bedtime so I could get some sleep and try and forget about today. I started mumbling stuff under my breath, and like I literally felt my stress levels rising when I realized I needed to step back. I stepped back and went through the questions to figure out what emotion I was feeling. Once I figured out that emotion, it was scared, believe it or not. I had to identify what triggered me to feel scared. Turns out, I was scared because I felt like I was in jeopardy of losing my job because of an error I made and needed to fix right away. That left me with T, type of self-care. When I identified my trigger and noticed it dealt with work, that meant I needed to align with professional self-care and practice a self-care activity that correlates with it. Professional self-care activities like setting work boundaries, eating a nourishing lunch, or the one that applied to this specific situation, asking for help. I made up my mind to stop stressing about what happened and ask for help to fix my error first thing in the morning. Stepping back and figuring out my emotion, identifying my trigger, and aligning the correct type of self-care instantly allowed me to relax. I realized that I started to take my emotions out on my family because I felt like those things, cooking and cleaning, I could control. But what was truly affecting my mood, my work situation, I couldn't control. But when I applied the SIT method and self-care basics, I came up with a plan that allowed me to move forward in life. This leads me to my next point. I'm going to break down the 9 different types of self-care into their self-care basic examples. This way, you can easily practice self-care without feeling like you're taking on extra tasks. Okay, girl, stretch it out. Jump up and down because we are going to get there today. Getting down to nitty gritty, as my grandma, my big G, used to say. Yes, she's a big gangster. Since you know there are 9 different types of self-care, I'm going to break down the 9 self-care basics that you should be practicing. The great thing is you're more than likely practicing a lot of them already, so don't freak out, but let's get started. Emotional self-care. So, emotional self-care is all about identifying what emotion you're feeling and moving forward in a way that identifies with those emotions. Some self-care basics for practicing emotional self-care are forgiveness and gratitude. Physical self-care. I need to work out. Physical self-care involves the body. It is anything that improves your physical health, such as diet and exercise. Some self-care basics for physical self-care are sleep, nutrition, and making sure you're seeing a doctor. Yes, you. Every year, you need to go get your checkup. Get it. Psychological self-care. Yes, I get it. When you read about emotional self-care, you're probably wondering if there's a difference between emotional and psychological self-care. And there is. Psychological self-care is all about learning new things and applying those concepts to your life. Some psychological self-care basics are saying no, reading a book, practicing being mindful. Saying no is one of my favorites. Set those boundaries. Spiritual. If you ever feel like something is missing in your life or that you're meant for something more, then you may want to practice spiritual self-care. Spiritual self-care helps you to connect with the higher power and purpose for your life. Some self-care basics for spiritual self-care are walking in nature, meditation, yoga, and of course prayer. Prayer works, y'all. Try it out. Financial self-care. As you can see, self-care covers every facet of your life, so you shouldn't be surprised that your finances are included. Financial self-care is all about having a great money mindset and being responsible with your money. Some financial self-care basics are money management, paying your bills on time, and saving for retirement. Because we all gonna get old one day, and I'm not trying to be living in someone's messed up apartment. Let's start saving those coins. So you don't have to remember all this. I do have a self-care guide that you can get. The link is below. It's free. It lists everything you need to do. It has self-care games, tips, habit trackers, everything you need. Just click that link below and you can grab it for free. But personal self-care. Personal self-care is definitely personal. It is all about having a hobby, practicing self-love, and knowing your true self. Professional self-care. Being a mom and going to work causes a lot of stress, which is why practicing professional self-care helps you to have a healthy work-life balance so you can reduce the stress that deals with your career and not take it out on your family. Some self-care basics for professional self-care are setting work boundaries, biggie, taking breaks and eating a nourishing lunch. Social self-care. Social self-care is all about relationships. It's all about having a group of friends, spouse, and family that is nurturing, as well as being able to have people you can trust and turn to when you need it most. Some self-care basics for social self-care are asking for help. Please do this. Do not take on everything. Ask for help. Honoring your commitments and environmental self-care. Who knew that keeping up on laundry and making sure you don't spend too much time on Instagram was a type of self-care, right? Yup. Environmental self-care involves respecting nature and the environment as well as your personal spaces. Some environmental self-care basics are minimizing waste, decluttering your home, minimizing technology use, so that way you can connect with nature and your family. You see that each type of self-care has different self-care basics that you're probably practicing already. And I bet you had no clue that it was self-care though. Got you. You're on track, girl. You're on track, girl. Get it. Oh, yeah. See, girl, learning about self-care basics was not a waste of time because it makes self-care easy and practical for a busy mom like you and me. And now that you know some of the things you're doing are self-care, give yourself a pat on the back. Oh, can't barely reach it. Because you are doing the dang thing. Overall, learning the self-care basics are important so that you have the proper foundation when it comes to practicing self-care and taking care of you so that you can live the life you work so hard for. And if you would like to have more insight on the self-care basics and dive a bit deeper, you can get my free 15-minute self-care guide that is full of self-care games, facials, planners, habit trackers, self-care checklists by clicking that link below. And if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you are notified of any new videos that I post.